computer. Now y'all are gonna get a little statement about, yes, you agree.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Joan, did you get it? Okay. All right, I'm gonna mute. Joan, you can mute. And
Okay.
Joe, you're on your own. Go for it.
Poetry. Poetry is when emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words, by Robert Frost. My poetic journey, with gratitude to my grandparents. An inscribed leather-bound copy of 101 famous poems sits on a table in my den next to a comfortable armchair. This gift from my paternal grandparents when I was 12 years old continues to be a favorite. If I were ever to be evacuated, I would grab this book. It was my first introduction to poetry of significance. 3 years before, at the age of 9, I had written a poem about my maternal grandmother, which she framed and hung on her wallpapered wall in her bedroom. It remained there for the rest of her life. I credit my grandparents for my love of poetry and the confidence to write poems with expectations that they would be enjoyed and possibly receive recognition. As a student, I continued to write both poems and stories. Many were included in school publications. After my school days were only a memory, I continued penning a jingle now and then. A chance entry in a limerick contest provided the confidence I needed to begin to think more seriously about this craft. In the February 2002 issue of the Saturday Evening Post, my limerick, which I wrote on a lark in response to a picture in the previous issue, appears as a second place winner. What an unexpected thrill. With this success, I felt certain I would go on to fame. I began writing more seriously. The husband of a friend who had also been writing poetry heard about my new interest, so we decided to meet every 2 weeks and critique one another's work. His approach and style were vastly different from my light, whimsical poetry that often bore a twist at the ending. He had been a pilot during the Vietnam War, and his poems were profound with serious, sometimes disturbing images, mostly free verse. A second interest for him was nature. For several years, we bounced our poems off one another. I feel that I gained more than he from our critique sessions. My writing companion and friend went on to teach and had many of his poems and a book published. I had followed his successful writing career, and every once in a while, I noticed a nature poem with humor and a twist at the end. I like to think that I might have had little influence on him during our time we met. He went on to the fame that I had imagined. How did Little America play into my poetry journey? My husband and I planned a leisurely driving trip to California to visit our son. First stop, Little America in Wyoming. For me, there was nothing to explore but the gift shop. When none of the trinkets grabbed my attention, I happened to notice a stack of what appeared to be pamphlets. When I picked one up, to my surprise, it was a chapbook from a poetry society in Wyoming. I purchased a copy, and that kept me occupied the rest of the evening and the trip. I felt that Wyoming had an active poetry group, so I joined. Through Wyoming's newsletter, I began to learn of local poetry contests. I even attended one of their workshops and found the people to be welcoming and happy to assist. I began entering contests, and some of my poems actually began receiving awards. The chapbook I spotted in the Little America gift store gave me my start. My advice about entering poetry contests: I know that it's important to read the poems that have been winners or published in a particular contest of interest. I must admit that in the beginning, I did not follow that advice. I just sent them out. I did set up a spreadsheet with the date, contest, name of contact person, and title of poem. It would be helpful to make note of the contest rule about simultaneous submissions. If simultaneous submissions are accepted, then you are obligated to notify all those to whom you submit your work and inform them that your poem will be receiving an award and or published. I learned how to write a query letter and saved it so that it could be used multiple times with only a few changes. But the most important thing that I feel contests offer is their rules. And the following the rules of the contest is of utmost importance. Chapbooks, poetry chapbooks are usually 6 by 9 inches. I put together 3 as gifts for my family and friends during the years I was writing lots of poems. I designed the covers, included a quotation about poetry, a table of contents, and my selected poems. I also added award information at the bottom of the page for my winning poems and included my art. I used local printers to put together. I learned that they have to be proofread very carefully to avoid errors because they're not going to change anything. And they varied in length from 30 to 40 pages. And if you can see the first one image that I did, and then the second girl on the hood, which is me on a car in high school, set in front and center, I might say. And the last one, Condos in Heaven, which I did design that. So those were fun. I sent them to my family and close friends, and I knew I wanted to do 3, so I've done them. I didn't realize there are so many types of poems when I started out. And of course, I just thought I'd go through them, some of them. The acrostic poem, which I used in the story, The Stone's Throw. This was the poem Spoon. Success provides opportunities, obligation near to one's heart. And those are vertical poems using the first letter in the word spoon. Cinquain, a 5-line poem that contains a vivid image, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2 syllables. It begins and ends with a noun. It contains 2 adjectives, 3 actions, 4 feeling words. An example is puppy, ornery, naughty, growling, jumping, chewing, a playful bundle of trouble, boxer. A concrete poem is a poem in which the arrangement of the words can create a visual image. I wrote one about going on a cruise while on a Weight Watchers diet. You can imagine what the lines look like. Short at the beginning, expanded in the center while enjoying the cruise, and narrowing as I headed for home and cut out the big meals. Ekphrastic is a description of a scene or work of art. And I did write one about one of Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings and a painting in my own home. Epic is a long narrative in verse form that retells the heroic journey of a single person or group of persons. Examples: Beowulf, Dante's Divine Comedy, Homer's The Iliad, and the Odyssey. I won't read those to you. Haiku, Japanese poetic form that has 3 lines, 5, 7, 5 syllables, unrhymed, often about nature. And Margie gave us a lot of information on haikus. Ballad, a narrative composition in rhythmic verse suitable for singing. A stanza in a ballad has 4 lines. The first and third are unrhymed tetrameters, and the second and fourth are rhymed iambic trimeters or trimeters. Examples: Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Richard Cory by Edward Arlington Robinson. And ballads are written many times as songs. Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, Candle in the Wind by Elton John, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis Presley. Free verse, a poem that does not rhyme or have a particular meter. It follows the rhythm of natural speech. Robert Frost called it playing with the net down. T.S. Eliot wrote, "No verse is free for the man who wants to do a good job." The Red Wheelbarrow by William Carlos Thomas is vertical with space between every line. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. William Carlos Thomas Williams' spacing and splitting words are techniques in poetry that are deliberate and intended to slow us down. This simple poem has been debated by many in search for its true meaning. This brings to mind a quote by Carl Sandburg: "I've written some poetry I don't understand myself." A limerick. A humorous, often body verse of 3 long and 2 short lines, rhyming AABBA. It is thought it originated in Limerick, Ireland, in reference to a popular nonsense song, but Edward Lear is called the father of the limerick because of his 1846 collection of short poems, A Book of Nonsense. However, a librarian from Limerick credits a group of Irish minstrels in the mid-18th century with the form's creation. Example, there once was a man from Nantucket who kept all his cash in a bucket, but his daughter named Nan ran off with a man, and as for the bucket, Nan took it. A narrative, a form of poetry that tells a story, usually written in metered verse, basic rhythmic structure, but does not need to rhyme. Epic poems and ballads are narrative poems. Rhyme. My taste in poetry has broadened over the years, as has my writing style. My early attempts always rhymed. It was reassuring to learn that Emily Dickinson wrote every one of her poems in both rhyme and meter. The late Hugh Kenner wrote that rhyme is not surprising, and that is what gives it its power. Emily Dickinson was known to say, "After great pain, a formal feeling comes." Poem 1775 by Emily Dickinson. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee, one clover and a bee and reverie. The reverie alone will do if bees are few. A sonnet is a poem of 14 lines using an iambic pentameter meter, meaning the second syllable is stressed in each of the feet, which are groups of syllables. Pentameter means 5 of these feet. And then Shakespeare's Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death drag that wanders in his shade, when in eternal times to time, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Caroline Kennedy, writing in the best loved poems of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, had an interesting statement about poetry. Sometimes knowing that someone liked a certain poem can cause us to take another look at it, puzzle over why they might have liked it, and before we know it, be captivated by it ourselves. With that in mind, Winston Churchill and I have something in common, because we both liked the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, which is included in 101 Famous Poems. Churchill wrote, "There had been greater poets and sages, more orthodox stylists, but no one has ever written like Kipling before, and his work, with all the characteristics and idiosyncrasies, has been successfully imitated by none." And finally, to quote Rita Dove, poet laureate, "Poetry is language at its most distilled and most powerful." I'd like to read two of my winning poems to you. They're so different, but they both won first place. The first one in the Society of Southwestern Authors 2018 or 2008 writing contest. So you see, I did this quite a while ago. Margarita No Salt. They came in every Sunday night, Jose's Mexican restaurant. He ordered a large margarita, no salt. She ordered a small, salt. Carmen sang their song, selected 30 years earlier, Can't Help Falling in Love. They laughed, Carmen sang. They came in on Sunday night, fighting January's icy cold, Jose's Mexican restaurant. He ordered a large margarita, no salt. She ordered water. No margarita, medical tests tomorrow. Carmen sang, Can't Help Falling in Love. They laughed, Carmen sang. He came in on Sunday night, flushed by July's hot, fiery gaze, Jose's Mexican restaurant. He ordered a large margarita, no salt. So good to see you, sir. Thanks. Sing it once more. Carmen sang, Can't Help Falling in Love. He ordered another drink. Carmen sang. They came in on Saturday night, brushed by fall's swirling golds and russets, Jose's Mexican restaurant. He ordered a large margarita, no salt. She ordered a small, no salt. Carmen smiled. What song? Your choice, he said. They laughed. Carmen sang. And the second one won first place in the Eugene B. Shea National Poetry Contest in 2015. So this was really the biggest winner, I feel, and so different. The timing was perfect. 10 years after Katrina, you're a slipper of a state, Louisiana, a lanyap. Your muddy seam flows crooked against your flesh, the fabric torn and snagged. Yet you dance on, subdued, still sassy, and slap your slipper in the Gulf. And the last one is the one I wrote for my grandmother. And I included my little brother, Bobby. This, as I said, I wrote when I was 9 years old. We are lucky little kids, and here's the reason why. We got a very swell grandma with a twinkle in her eye. When we are sick, she's by our bed, singing us songs that come into her head. We are always welcome at her home when mommy and daddy want to roam. She's never sad, she's always gay. It sure is nice to be that way. She mends our clothes and feeds us well. And these are the reasons we think she's swell. That's it. I can remember writing that, and I remember trying to rhyme with home. I kept trying to think of a word, and so then I put in Rome, which my parents thought was hysterical. So I've enjoyed poetry, and I my partner that I worked with, one day after I won that national contest too, and he said to me, you know, you're a better painter than you are a writer. Bye-bye. We're friends. And, you know, it was really time that we broke up, and I just went on to concentrating on my art, and he went on to continue writing. But he's a great guy. He was a big influence on me when I really got serious about it. So thank you for your attention.